It's my pleasure to introduce you all to today's speaker. He's a poet, critic, and a retired professor at Hyderabad. He was born to a working class Zoroastrian family in Mumbai, India. He was educated at Xavier's at Lads Academy and St. Xavier's College, Mumbai. He has written over 20 to 30 critically acclaimed books of poetry and critical writing. He is best known for his anthology on gay writing titled Yarana. He's a preeminent voice of gay liberation in India and modern India's first openly gay poet. With this, I warmly invite Hoshang Merchant for today.
Okay, let me tell you what I'm doing today. It was advertised as a poetry reading, but then I was told that these are not specialist people, these are not specialists who can understand poetry. And I was carrying my books, fortunately, because I had to present a paper on the body. And they said, read your poems, but that's not how it works. You have to do some more work than just reading the poems. So I said, why don't I live with Rekha and Giri, and they're very hospitable. They have a nice chair and table where I can sit and write my things. They get up very late, I get up very early, so I do all my work before they get up. So I wrote this thing, and I will read it to you. I'll try to make it as simple as possible and as accessible as possible. And it's also a dry run for that thing that I have to do in Hyderabad University. By the way, you know who's going to talk before me? Judith Butler. Wow. It's perfect, isn't it? Everything is so perfect in life. Okay. I've called this the Songs of the Body. I begin with a poem that I read on Facebook. I don't know how to pronounce the poet's name. It says James Saenz, S-A-E-N-Z. It's a translation from the Spanish. He's a South American poet, I don't know from where, and he's translated by a man called Forrest Camden. And the name of the poem is Night. The space your body takes up in the world is equal to the space of the body into which someone has retreated. The space your body takes up in the world is equal to the space of the body into which someone has retreated. And if so, no one has any reason to bother or pester you. In the space of your body where you're absolute sovereign, you can stand on your head, create and miscreate, and wander at ease, free at last of a nightmarish world of swarming spectres and skeletons who siphoned your life. In any case, your dwelling, your city, your night, and your world boil down to your body. Think of the freedom a dancer has with her body. Pas de deux is a poem I wrote early on. Pas de deux is a step in the ballet, Pas means foot and deux means two. So it's a man and woman usually dancing together. Pas de deux is a pair, male and female, dancing in concert. My poem is based on a film made by my friend Norman McLaren, the father of animation. He shot it in slow motion, frame by frame, which gave me my images. The principle of a moving film being that the human retina retains the impression of any static image for 1/16th of a second in quick succession, giving us the impression of motion. Pas de deux from Norman McLaren. The first voice is the woman's and the second voice is the man's. I'm a bird in flight, alone, and each of my fancies is separate. I'm a man on a hunt alone, and each one of my arrows is separate. Such a dance of death. My flying limbs circumscribe a wheel, a sun. O bird to my bow, the arrow that impales the bird raises it as a Nile in flood or the Pharaoh's pyramid. I am the wheel alone, and each one of my spokes is separate. I am man, bird, beast, woman. Let's fuse and raise our Egypt upwards like the flutes longing, outwards like the limbs ache in a leafy tree. I am the firebird, as one water me. I am the firebird, as one water me. By the poem's end, two have become one. The divided person is healed. Here is another poem, death poem in three parts. I'll just give you the first part and the third part. About a homosexual man in bed with a bisexual boy. Part one. The rolled up vest constrains the lover as the leash a slave. The bed is his prison as language mine. Do not use the word, as I shall become the word. His judgment prisons me. Now there is nothing between us, me, my slave, in bed with me. The third part. Every face appears as face to me. Every walk suddenly hiss to me. How sweet once his house water, now his well seems unwell to me. Like a slave struggling to be free, he appears bound in bed to me. At every walk he appears sudden to me. I have clothed my corpse. Now all flesh appears rotten to me. Every face appears his face to me. The boy in the poem happened to be a Brahmin. I once read a line about India's Brahmins in a sociological tract. It said, Brahmins are noted for their cunning, corruption, and concupiscence. The three C's, the cardinal C's. But this is how these bodily and mental traits have been sublimated. These bodily and mental traits of the Brahmins have been sublimated to manifest in the world as a temple. This poem is called Brahmin, Brahmin. Brahmin, Brahmin, go around your temple bound, round your shoulder the thread suspended, sacred, the girdle waist-bound, leading outwards the temple paths of patterns, rhomboids, parabolas, tangents, aspiring the steeple stone. The temple begins a body with an ang or limbs, and the body a temple. But I too was once a boy. Here is a poem, Orpheus, going forward and backward in time, on meeting a lover again after a space of 40 years, both of us having variously made a name for ourselves and having rediscovered each other through news items about us in the papers. This is Orpheus. I have excised parts of it. It's a long poem, but most of it is here. You will surely have read the book when you come. It is sold in green, mauve, and black cloth-bound covers at discerning bookstores in my city and yours. I like the black and gold cover, like a coffin, best. And then you will ask for a new house, settle down on the couch, like the householder you are, lover no more. Then you'll proceed to strip me bare to the bone, just as I've described you doing in the book. and see the pages come to life. My schoolboy haircut, the soft hair falling over the left eye, catching light, my slender body parting to tousle bedsheet as if at sea, and you a rudder to my boat, and you a rudder to my drowning boat. Of course you'll see yourself in my book, the heavy torso, the light limbs, soft shuffling feet, like a reluctant speech, and then suddenly a torrent of embraces. Is there no love short of eating, of stopping breath? But you are resurrected today in my pages and on my couch. I have to cope with all that. I became ugly, hairy, old, fat. I sit on my new doorstep, which everyone avoids. And now you sit there at my old ruined house, shuffling the fallen mauve bougainvillea petals with your soft feet. This trellis vine has grown into a tree with leaves, a book, lovers still embracing its shade. This gift you gave me is for Orpheus, and I sit under it, thinking of you. Orpheus is the god of poetry. Sex becomes love, and love became my poem. The tragedy of youth is that the body matures, but the mind doesn't. Young bodies are beautiful, young minds are not, often enough. Here is a retelling of a Greek story. It's a historical story. In my poem about a male student trying to seduce his male teacher. What would me to say about that? It doesn't say anything about that. How convenient. An Athenian scandal, Athens, the Greek city-state. Alcibiades has fallen in love with Socrates. Alcibiades was once an ephebe. An ephebe is the young boy who is taken in by the older master. It's a sexual relationship, but an educated relationship. An Athenian scandal. Alcibiades has fallen in love with Socrates. Alcibiades was once an ephebe. His eyes lowered, his voice low. He looked up to Socrates. After a lifetime's whoring, the whoremonger has come to the master, not for edification, but to crack the master open, to gnaw his innards like a coconut. This he calls love, a compulsion to know the other. He's willing to play Socrates' boy, but the philosopher can sleep coolly all night beside a warm body and not be perturbed. Alcibiades is tired of abysses, fissures, woman. He wants to hold something hard, unchanging, certain as a soul, upright as a lit brand, a man. He goes away disappointed and angry. The next night, all the god statues in the city lose their head and their phalluses to Alcibiades' sword. What I'm grappling with here is mental bisexuality, the man in the mind of woman, and the woman in the mind of a man. If you remember the first poem here, Pas de deux, literally two-stepping, begins with a female dancer dancing alone, without a male partner. She thinks she is whole, but she is split. So it is not one person, but a split person, that is two people in one person dancing alone. Enter the male and the couple bursts into flower. One becomes two, becomes three, becoming one again. The problem of the woman in the man was answered, though unresolved, in Alcibiades' problem. Here is a gay boy becoming a man with a probably bisexual woman in piazza, meaning thirst. It is a pastiche of a Jibinanda Das's Bangla poem called Pyasa. Trishna, that's the Bengali word for thirst. It is in 3 parts: thesis, antithesis, synthesis. 1. Thesis. I remember the girl, helpless, listless in my bed, with her head flung from the pillow, hanging below to the floor and almost crying my name, crying out for my waters, while profusely drenched in her own. What miracle my fingers a tongue's flick had wrought. I sat mute on my feet like a child before an ocean. Antithesis. When he came after a decade to me and said, "Be for me a man," I became that helpless girl in bed 4 decades before. And the boy looking out to manhood, perhaps wishing to be a girl for once and for one last time before marriage. What thirst, what glory, what fatality, and no water. Synthesis. That evening, I saw a peacock at sunset in the crook of a tree, 2 arms cradling a male crest, the male within the female. Earth craved rain, the lake caught fire with the last sun rays. Everything flows away into night. Everything flows away into night. Thirst is no more. I will end the first part of my paper dealing with the body with a poem on love, in praise of limestone. Rivers bring down sediment, sediment turns to limestone, limestone trickling like rain into caves becomes stalagmite. The heart is such a cave. The heart has layers of sediment. Most layers are porous, but some hearts hit rock bed. Rock bed does not give way. Water comes in the form of rain, cloud, river, or fog. So does woman in poetry. Shakespeare knew this. All his lovers in Arden are bewildered, exchanging bodies, but not souls. Lost the forest, the cave, male rocks, menhirs, abysses, where the heart feels found out, and groves were sacred in caves, so was woman. Only the erect cock can subdue woman, but the earth was first an ocean. Water can make shores, deltas, lands, valleys. Water can wear down stone. Water is akin to love. Love is hard like rock. Love is hard and inflexible like hell. Love can wear down stone. What is love? Here is a 15th century Italian answer from the poet Cavalcanti, his definition of love in a poem which begins, "A lady asked me, Donna mi prega." A lady asked me what is love. He answers, love. It comes from a seen body, and once understood, it stays in the mind, but it has no stability, nor does it decline in quality, but shines. It is its own effect forever and always, and no one can counterfeit its face. Love is not virtuous, it is perfect. This perfection is not imagined by the mind, but felt in the lived life. I give you my most famous love poem, The Scent of Love, based on another Jibinanda Das poem about a hunted doe and a stag's lament for her, translated as In Camp by Alan Seeley in his book on Jibinanda, a poet of art. Scent of Love. It is raining a small rain, a gentle rain over all the world, gentle like that love which is so hard to sustain or to receive or to reciprocate, because men are greedy. They bite and tear. You from the mountain, I from the plain, I from the city, you from the forest, I a hunter and you a deer. The city is full of the smell of my deer today. The musk mingles with the rain. Its scent spreads. This morning I lie in bed, dreaming of you. I was to be a hunter, but I am today an inert deer. Sensing danger, you wait, and I also sense danger with you. Why is the world so crazed for deer meat? I wonder at a living creature who must so eat a living creature. And suddenly the wounded doe dies for you. She has dragged herself to you to die before you, her stag. Did she not stay one night inert when you slew her in bed, just as tonight I wish to slay you? Does our passion not bring suffering? And do we all not die daily a little, satisfying our longings? Play, go play, though your scent drives me wild, and I have become wild in my love for a wild thing. Slay or be slain, and your hand will not be cleansed of blood ever again. The pain of love is everywhere, and the scent of this musk will not be washed, even in this rain. Etymologically, the word passion means to suffer, as in the Passion of Christ on Good Friday. Passion proceeds from the body and stabs the heart. Pain filtered through a mind becomes wisdom. So in the poem, we have the classic Shakespearean triad of hand, head, and heart. The hand that reaches out to love also kills. As Wilde puts it, borrowing from Shakespeare's Measure for Measure, each man kills the thing he loves. Each man kills the thing he loves. Wilde adds, the brave do it with a sword, the coward with a kiss. The brave do it with a sword, the coward with a kiss. The classic love triangle here is my favorite one, the older passive homosexual, a bisexual younger man, and a woman. A girl is killed in marriage so that she can become a woman. A boy wishes paradoxically to be penetrated in bed so that then, like the Greek Tiresias, he can be double-sexed and know the secrets of two worlds, the male and the female. The guilt and shame is the poor passive old homosexuals who is asked to deflower the younger male in bed. The pain of love is everywhere. What is the meaning of life? Wittgenstein answers, whatever may be life's meaning, it's certainly not to have a good time. War-ravaged Japan threw up the existentialist philosophy of Kitaro Nishida, just as Sartre emerged in Nazi-occupied Paris. Nishida's Neo-Buddhism says, we come from nothing and go into nothing. And we pass through this world, which is not nothing, but everything. We are not born with nothing. We are born with a body, eyes to see, heart to feel, hands to hold and let go. Sartre at 70, after a lifetime of philosophy, said in his last interview that we need a body even to be a philosopher. Words are formed by a tongue in a mouth. These are his last words in the last interview he gave. Okay, now I'm going to read from my prose book, It was my first prose book. I wrote poetry for a long, long time. And then I had to talk about very cruel things which poetry cannot deal with the way I write, very poetically. So I said, well, what the hell, let me be explicit and shock the world. Now nothing shocks. I'm still shocked by my stupidity. So this is part 2. And I begin with the epigraph from St. Francis of Assisi. Apologize to Brother Donkey, your body. Apologize to Brother Donkey, your body. What I have put my body through. Anyway, in the first part of this effort, I gave you 40 years of my poetry on the body. Poetry is distilled experience. My poetry deals with the pleasured body. It is a poetry of pleasure. Love's pain pierces, yet men follow this beautiful pain that hurts, because this pain is right for right men. This again is Cavalcanti. It is time to deal with raw experience and the punishment it brings in its wake. Here, poetry will not serve. All of it will have to be couched in prose. I give you now my sexual awakening I wrote about in prose after years of poetry writing. My first prose book, is the first part of my autobiography, The Man Who Would Be Queen, which I began at 27, but completed only 30 years later. This is my school experience at 12. It was I who touched the man on the suburban train. He came in his trousers. He took me to a carpenter's attic. Amid sawdust, he penetrated me. I felt pain and loss. He offered me a candy. Picking up a man for Saturday afternoon, I would be at the railway station at 8 each morning to see men descending. I would first see feet, then groin, torso, face in that inverted order. A stray lock, a weak eye, flared nostrils, a paunch. Something would have to be attractive. I would follow him into the overcrowded compartment. After the initial accidental strokes and brushes, I would have the genital in my hands. This done wordlessly each morning, I would be invited home. Sometimes from an evening train home, we would end up on the beach. I thought I was cursed to an orgasmless life. I looked up the word homosexual in the dictionary again and again. I didn't sleep with the same man twice for fear of scandal, but my secret was out. This is page 10 and 11 of the autobiography. Tiring of repression in Indian society, I hit the flesh pots of America, the gay baths and saunas. I was 20. This is the sauna I went to. It was called Scotty's. Scotty collected fees from a window, $1.50 then. I was introduced by my gay American roommate, Michael. We went into our locker room and changed into towels. Corridors were designed as a labyrinth to add excitement, with cubicles holding planks nailed wall to wall, serving as beds. Some had mirrors to separate the actor from the act or to double the pleasure. No names are ever exchanged. Scotty's clientele was always young. The college man with a shaved chest was from Antioch College, and he told me Christ's 12 disciples were his lovers. I spent the night fully dressed in the television room. The next morning, I had my first quarrel with Michael. That is page 22. But I soon grew addicted to American gay sex with no strings attached. I visited Scotty's 3 nights a week. I visited Scotty's 3 nights a week It was life within the whale belly. He had moved into a huge new place with a sauna, showers, game room, and a snack bar. It might have been a brothel which went out of style. The orgy room had a vast bed. I was the prostitute soliciting clients. Someone kissed me feverishly. One could barely discern faces in the dark, lightless room. I tried to satisfy everybody. A blond boy, patiently waiting his turn, brought a warm mouth upon me. It was over in minutes. I reached for him, but he fled. The metaphor for the gay life had been established. Page 23. Oscar Wilde says, pleasure is tragic. Pleasure is tragic. Society exacts its price from the pleasure seeker for too much pleasure. Worse, the orgiast turns against himself out of guilt at pleasure coming from a puritanical upbringing and seeks out punishment for the pleasure he has taken. In most cases, the pain itself becomes pleasurable. Here is an episode of a sissy Peter who beat me up from my autobiography. A racing car driver called me Joe, picked me up and ordered me to mount him. He was massive, at least 200 pounds. The August moon, 5 in the morning chill, without a shred of clothing in the fields. I fell asleep. Stars as in phantom comics, I told myself. I felt myself raised and dropped, raised and dropped. I had blacked out. And awoke on a thickly carpeted floor. Arabian Nights, I said, and went back to bed. My face swelling from the blows. Men going to work 8 in the morning, stepping over me on the landing, lying there shirtless. Please open the door, lady. God is a fairy who wears a kimono and plucks her eyebrows. I'm Sergeant Flood. I know the story. I made up a story. Inspected for rape. The lady you called on is praying for you. I chase a friar come to console me out of my hospital room. Anesthesia, silence, darkness, stitches, light again. It was like going into a dark tunnel to emerge into light. Why am I alive? It was not my body that they made love to. Everything that happened to another person. I had an out-of-body experience under anesthesia on the operation table. This is the end. After serving 2 years rigorous imprisonment at Reading Jail, Oscar Wilde said in France, if you put a poet in jail for writing poetry, he will still write poetry. If you put a man in jail for loving boys, he will still love boys. I end with the same South American poet on the body, poem on the body called Night, with which I began. One time, I came close to my body and realizing I had never seen it, even though I bore it with me, I asked it who it was, and a voice in the silence said to me, I am the body who inhabits you. I am the body who inhabits you, and I'm here in the darkness, and I suffer you, and live you, and die you. But I'm not your body. I am the night. The night is death. The body dies. Art survives. What is art? Let us answer it in short in this way. Existence, that is the world, is creation in reverse. Creation is art. Existence is the world. The world is art in reverse. Existence doesn't look at me. I look at it. The chain goes 2 different ways. art or creation starts with the simple until the artist fashions from it something most complex. Light to eye to brain to me. Light to eye to brain to me. Creation goes from the seen to the seeing. Creation goes from the seen to the seeing. Existence is a chain in reverse. I see the thing as if the creator were me. The artist thinks that he creates the world. Creation finished, I was made to reverse it. No ingenuity needed. Creating backwards. Light making its way again into shade. The light, William Carlos Williams says in his poem, Asphodel, that green flower. I will quote Cavalcanti again. Love has no face. Seen in a white light, it becomes everyone and everything. This is love's aim. This is love's aim. If we hear it, we can't see it. It is as if we follow a spirit. It is separated from body. It is separated from body and colors. And like light is separate from darkness, and darkness separate from light, yet one defining the other. So love is set off from falseness. Love is set off from falseness. Love is for those worthy of trust. And love is merciful. Love is merciful. Go my poem definition as you will to where you want to. You are so beautiful that only the clever will understand you. As for the rest, we have nothing to do with that. I hope I didn't bore you. I hope I entertained you. I hope I didn't shock you. Shops anymore, no? Nothing shops. But what an aim in life to shock oneself. What did Oscar say? Astonish me. You can ask me questions if you wish. If you want to go to listen to music, go there, it's more entertaining. It's a bit draining. I talk very heavy, you know. Did you like it? He feeds me, so I have to give back something.
She feeds.
She feeds me. He buys the food. I figure out. Parsi, merchant.
Einstein for the right.
Thank you. I thought all the poems were good, but never mind.
Very good. Very good.
Nice. He was my student long ago. बोलो ना कुछ बताओ पूछो मैं तुम्हारी बुढ़ी अम्मा हूँ मत शर्माओ पूछो I know you children have a hard time, harder than I had. So many temptations. Just Google, just Grindr. Oh my God, what people I mean, at least I could drag my body to the sauna across town and see the person whose name I didn't know, but at least I saw what I was getting before it jumped into my bed or I into its. You people are wiser, very much wiser than me. So I suppose I needed to do it. No?
Question about your writing. Do you What's your drafts in your head?
Meaning talks,
Drafts of the poems.
I never make a draft. I have never rewritten anything in my life except this autobiography which I've written to Shaw. So I wrote cock and cunt and piss and fuck. And then I said, I want to publish it. Okay, so I had to cross everything and I had to write penis, vagina, urinate, you know, all the Latin words. But nobody would publish it. It was my student who is now a teacher at BITS Pilani in Hyderabad. She says, why didn't they publish it? This is very good. So I showed it to another student who was in Penguin, and she says, I'll do it. And they published 200 copies. They gave me 400 rupees for my life experience. And it took them 10 years to sell 200 copies. And they invited me to Penguin and I saw Shobha Day and Kushan Singh and everybody. And I said, why do you have Shobha Day? And they said, she sells and with her money we publish you who does not sell. So thank you, Shobha Day. She was my classmate. She's very kind to me, very kind. Very kind. So that's the story of the island.
So the lines, you rewrite them in your head.
Yeah, when I used to come to teach you, I used to write poems in my head. I nearly got run over so many times crossing streets with poems in my head. So I didn't drive. When I had the money to drive, to buy a car, I said, I'll kill somebody because I'll be thinking of a poem and who wants to go to jail like Oscar Wilde, killing someone. But I've stopped writing now, SV. I stopped writing in 2000. It's very demanding. You have to have eyesight of a different kind. And, it takes away everything from life. You have to manage your money when you're old. You can't be writing poems when people are stealing you blind, Really. And my sister died and I said, what is it that I can give up? She was the only person in the world who loved me. I don't know if I have loved her. I don't know if I know what love is or if I have ever loved it. But she loved me. So I said, let me give up something which is precious to me. Now you see, I'm very practical. I was tired of writing poetry. So I said, let me give up poetry. Let me give up poetry for my sister. But it was a habit, you see, so I'd see this and I'd write 4 lines and I'd see that. And I said, no, you're not going to write anymore. I wrote 3,000 poems. I published 1,000. Luckily, recently, somebody told Cornell University that there are poets from Bombay who are worthy, meaning Adil Jasavala and Arvind Krishna Mehrotra, not me. And would they archive them at the library? These archives are extremely expensive. Each page is like put in and they have to be handled with gloved hands, and there is a special person, and there is humidity controlled rooms, and somehow I snuck in, as they say in upstate New York, and they put me among the poets. You see, I have all this kachra. I don't know when I wrote what, to whom, and why. So I just put it in little parcels and wrote 2001 to 2002, 2002 to 2003, and just sent it off. That lady was very sweet. I thought it would take her 6 months. In 6 weeks, she said, it's all archived. Then bloody COVID came. And then nobody worked, including this very highly paid archivist. Then I wrote to her and she finally answered and she said, you're not in the poets archive anymore. You're in the sexuality archive. We would like to know, some little children have come from a New York school, from the PA class, and they're going to read all your sex confessions. I said, how sweet. Just what I looked for. So now I'm in the sexuality of it. But see, they would have just put me in the kachraka dabba along with my body, you know. So let my body go, but let all this effort that I've put in for years and years. And 1,000 poems are published. And I mean, you know, I'm not. Who used to write to the very end? Pushwatsan? No, I'm not Pushwatsan. You know, sometimes you have to shut up.
Yeah, where all have you lived till now? Like for how many years now? And what's your age?
अंकल आप 80 साल के होंगे अंकल आपकी उम्र क्या है My child, I'm 200 years old. Google, no? You don't know how to Google?
Which all places have you been?
I was born in Bombay, then I went to America for an MA. My mother was dying and I wanted to do something for her before she died. And MA at that time was 2 years in Bombay and I didn't think my mother had 2 years to live. So I found this very expensive but very convenient 9-month MA with just 6 courses. Now you see, when you just do 6 courses, you know the MA is not worth the paper that is written on, but worth the money you bought it for. And it is supposed to go with an American BA because, you know, they start doing the specialization from the first year. We used to do it in the 3rd year, which we used to call junior BA and senior BA. So there were these big chunks of, what's it called, knowledge that I didn't have and I still don't have. So I Google, you know, Facebook gives me correct information, huh? I didn't know until yesterday that Walt Whitman had to quit school at 11 because he had to feed his mother. And everything he ever knew was on the streets of New York like me. Anyway, so I went to Los Angeles and my mother died that day I graduated. So I said, now I'm not going to that hellhole, which is my father's house with a stepmother. Luckily, I got money from Purdue University, which is now, by the way, cancelled, and there is no English department at Purdue University. Can you imagine? Anyway, they have committed crimes like me before shutting their doors. And then I was there for the longest time because, you know, everybody was taking two courses a semester. And I was taking 4, 5, 6. And then, of course, I was dropping them and staying with 4. And then I had to get out because, you know, I said, look, I don't want a PhD because nobody would hire a homosexual in America. I'm talking about 40 years ago, you know. I mean, what do I need a PhD for? And I was trying to be a poet, and I was a bad poet because I was not in an environment where I could write about. I had nothing to do with America. I didn't like the pop music I was hearing. I belonged to another generation. You know, I still belong to another generation. I'm the last of that generation, the generation of my teachers, you know. And I just was a bad poet, you know, but I was trying very hard to be a poet. Luckily, somebody from the Middle East who had a school wanted an English teacher. The school had become a college and then the college became a university just before I went there. But it was in that Israel occupied Palestine. And, you know, I was this poor child from Bombay, had gone to Los Angeles, I'd never been outside Bombay, and then you go into Los Angeles, no wonder you go mad and go having sex 3 times a day, because 3 times a week, It was 3 times a day at Purdue because it was worse than Los Angeles. And really, when I think about it, it's really like saying these things with a straight face. See, Giri says I make all this up to sound interesting. Anyway, so then I was in the West Bank and I was kicked out of the West Bank. And then I had a friend I'd met at the Shakespeare Institute in Bridgeport, a German boy who said, you just come to, this is the old West Germany, East Germany, very, very afraid of communism. And of course, Manfred was a communist agitating. But he told me, you go and work with the American army in Heidelberg. And I had these curly hair, that somebody had done for me free of charge. Look how look on the women he was treating, gay boys with blue hair, another gay boys, that kind of guinea pig I was. When I got a haircut free of charge, now I don't get one free of charge, so I don't like my hair. So anyway, so I went there and there was a nice gentleman and he said, oh my dear, now what does this mean? Wrath of God. Hoshang, the wrath of God. Okay, now what do we do? Open the doors, open the windows, dearies, if there is any light. Or should I just continue? Aga Shaitanvi has a beautiful poem on Begum Akhtar. Yes. You remember that? How her voice comes from the darkness, like from another planet, and her stud is flashing like a star from another. What a poem, what a poem. And then his sister drives him from Arizona to the airport, and suddenly it is snowed in Arizona, and the cactus has these little icicles that flash like the diamond of Begum Akhtar, the great poet he was. People refuse to read him because he's Muslim. His poems are Muslim. I was writing gay poems, now there are Muslim poems also. What did you do? What did you do? Does that answer your question, child, or should I continue?
You haven't yet reached Hyderabad.
I haven't come to Hyderabad to meet SV. Curse of God on me. See, they come back. We have a saying in Gujarati, Khotta khawai ne bhunda mare ne. The false never get lost and the evil never die. He and I are both things. We are Scorpio. Both Scorpio, we choose.
Talk about the process of inspiration, like how you write the poem, how it comes to you, like the journey of from
I was wearing beautiful clothes and I was walking in a valley and I saw daffodils. And then I said, oh, daffodil. My child, I've just told you, I've written my poems not with ink, but with spit and shit and semen and blood and all the bodily fluids which stink, and I perfume them. And my teacher says, what the fuck are you perfuming this for? I said, because it stinks. He said, no, because you think it is dirty. There's nothing dirty about it. You don't have to beautify it. I said, I'm sorry, I'm not American. I'm not going to write like Barrows and all those people, Anyway, it still stinks, I think. You can't perfume shit, can you?
it's already
It's perfume. Lucky you.
you should be ending soon. It's chai and biscuit.
Bring on the biscuit, bring on.
One last question.
I imagined my sister. Take out that mask. I'm not infected. What silliness.
You mentioned your sister.
Huh.
And gave up writing poetry for her because it was convenient to you. But there was also, I read one of your poems about how death waits.
I can hear you.
Yeah, okay, sorry. Should I pick up where I left off? Okay, you mentioned your sister, but you also wrote a poem about her and I think death waiting for your sister.
My sister takes a long, long time to die.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah, yes.
I genuinely mourned my sister. You make up stories as you go along. It was until yesterday that I thought maybe I've done a merchant trick, by saying I'm doing it for Wabis, but I was just getting myself out. See, it's a trap. Anything you do is a trap. Marriage is a trap, love is a trap, father is a trap, teacherhood is a trap, technician's life, B-Tech is a trap. You have to get out of being a poet is also a trap. It was supposed to be freedom, and of course I had my freedom. But how long can you do it? कुछ दूसरा करो, तो कुछ दूसरा है ही नहीं करने का. I'm a one-trick pony, ठीक है, you call me, you still listen to me. बुड्ढा को अच्छा लगता है, पैसा को मारो गोली.
Yeah.
About finding your poetry and your works elsewhere because of the 200 copies that were sold. Where can we find physical copies?
Oh, now they're on Amazon, no? They're on Amazon, and I've said, please keep the money down because my students can't afford these books. So they publish it for 200, but how can they sell today for 200? So now it has become 400. Now it has become 400, the autobiography I'm talking about.
But other anthologies of your poetry,
Yarana? Yarana is for 400. 399, I think, the last I checked. It's an anthology of gay writing with my writing in it. It's not my anthology. My anthology is the one I read from today, My Sunset Marriage, which was 40 years. Anand of Navayana did it for me. Yeah, you're audible. Am I edible? Even now?
Yes.
I'm an edible archive. You know Edible Archive? It's a restaurant by my Bengali student. She archives rice varieties, 43 varieties. The Bongs love food. Huh? Anyway, please.
There was a lot of poetry on laugh. I mentioned that was one.
How do I know? Do you love your brother? Do you have a brother? Do you have a brother? Say yes or no. You have another sister. Do you love her? Does she love you? How do you know she loves you? Well, when I meet her in Hades, when we become the shadies of Hades, then we will know. We were both as false as hair. The young children, so cynical, so cynical, so cynical. Yes, yes.
Now you talked about exploring your body and knowing yourself. In our first philosophy class, we were asked to write 5 sentences on who are you. I could barely write 1.5 before that bullshit. So there are 2 questions to this. One, did you find yourself? And 2, if I would ask you, who do you think you are? So I'd like to see how you perceive this.
क्या मैं रामाना महर्षि दिखता हूँ तेरे को?
I saw the sarcastic comment coming. I feel like
See, I was just fucked up. I was not finding anything. I was just getting my rocks off. I could forget myself for 1.5 minutes of orgasm. Life is very painful. When you're 20 and homeless, in a very threatening environment like the United States of the 60s, you know, which is giving you sex and drugs and rock and roll in the name of freedom and actually sending you straight to hell. I mean, nobody goes out and says, I'm going to find myself. Nobody finds himself, you know. My teacher used to call it fudging around. And this is most people fudge around, and then you find the international fudge factor. And then they make your equation and give it to others if you're a teacher. See, one teacher who was a Ramana Maharishi woman, she told me just before I retired that you think you're your body, you're not your body. See, we think we are our body, Ramana Maharshi says, but we're not our body. We are spirit. Now, see, if you're a communist and you don't believe in it, by the way, somebody told me 2 days ago that opium of the people is a long sentence where Marx says he believes in God. So, you know, I have all these Marxists and I have all these other friends who are all believers. And I want this Marxist to come to Brazil with me to meet my believers, because I can't go alone, so I have to drag somebody intelligent. No, Marxists are intelligent. So then I said, maybe you can talk about Marx's view of religion. What's that? Perfect. No, she will talk on something else. She says, okay, anyway, she'll talk about the book to read, because my poems are going to be in Brazilian Portuguese. And this dear poem is going to be published. I'll come back to you in a minute. This is too good to miss. He will be tickled. So this venison, the word venison means a gandu. In South America. So this person from South America who was listening, he was laughing and he said, this is not Spanish, this is not Portuguese, this is French. You know, when you speak bad words, you should stop speaking French. So I told him, say deer meat, don't say venison. Okay, so I mean, you are the spirit. When you're old, I mean, how much fucking can you do? How many orgasms can you have? I'm 74 years old and, you know, I can't have sex. The spirit is the last resort of all scoundrels. I am on my last resort and thank God I found it. And thank God somebody is now saying, go to the brothel, you're still young. Because I would have done it if somebody had told me whom I believed. You see, I went to a guru and I thought he was going to give me a mantra. This was Chicago. The guru was westernized. And he told everybody, get out of here, get out of the room. He said, sit down. The mantra is self-confidence. I said, that's all. Listen to yourself, do what your body, what your mind tells you. Do what you think is right for you. Don't ask your father and mother, I'm gay, should I be gay, should I marry? They'll say, yes, marry. And then they will die. And you will be stuck with this lovely wife.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I actually don't know what to say because Thank you so much for coming here. I think we all can agree, like, the last past hour was just so amazing, like in every way. I don't know, I don't have words to describe. It might be cliche, but like I actually maybe I'm just so like
Just be honest in your own life.
I'm being
Just be
very
honest in your
honest.
own life.
No, I'm being really honest. I don't usually like, I don't read a lot of poetries, but like when I was listening to you, I was just like, I don't keep going.
You wanted to be a poet?
No.
Don't you start writing poetry.
Yeah, I can't be a poet, but like,
Thank God.
the way you were reading, I was like, maybe I felt like it stopped quickly, like it stopped very soon. Like I just wanted to just
But
listen to
you
you.
were sad when I was reading my poetry. Huh?
It
My
wasn't.
poems are sad, no? You were sad. She was also sad. I don't like to make people cry, but you were also very sad.
And there was a lot of emotions, like a lot of different emotion. I can't say it was sad, but like there was a lot of things going on in my head when I was sitting there. But like these are like genuinely coming.
Kentucky chicken, cow, Coca-Cola pure soda. कल से देखो उसमें. Yes.
I really want to thank you.
Thank you for thanking me.
For coming here and like taking us on this.
Thank you. You're a good. I was very afraid. I was doing susu every 5 minutes. I said, what are these children going to do to me, you know? And it was a warm day. It was not a cold day. I told Rekha, I think I'm nervous. But then Giri said, no, they're very sweet children. They're very clever. They're very cool. They won't insult you. They will listen to you. Except the snake that has come to my house. Palma.
There's chai outside in this case.
Acha, chalo. Sorry if I've outspoken something, overspoken something. I'm an old man. I take license. SV, give me my stick.